What's the essence of good storytelling? And how do you tell a great story about a place where a reader has never been? Writers have been grappling with this issue for centuries. Award-winning African writer Alain Mabanckou has his own theory about what he wants and hopes to convey.
I hope that I could express another voice of Africa. The voice was just to remind people that never underestimate a civilization and never trust all the prejudices people written about what is so-called the dark continent. I need my continent to be called the light continent. That's why I become a writer.
Travel in its various forms was very much the focus at the 28th edition of the HKTDC Book Fair. Tens of thousands flocked to the nearly 700 booths during the week-long event at the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Center. Among the highlights was the International Cultural Village, where consulates and collectives from 28 countries showcase what's happening in their part of the world. Japan was front and center, while European countries were showcased in a brand new European Union pavilion. This included France, who had an impressive showing this year.
We are having some activities to actually develop bridges between Hong Kong and French culture. For example, we are having a session about The Little Prince from Saint-Exupéry, the famous French writer, but then we gathered one French illustrator and some Hong Kong illustrators who actually made a Hong Kong version of The Little Prince.
Closer to home, as China continues to talk up its ongoing Belt and Road Initiative, Juan Jose Morales, a Spanish writer, and Peter Gordon, a long-term Hong Kong expat publisher, have teamed up to create the book A Silver Way. The nonfiction book aims to show that the current initiative has its roots in a centuries-old trade network that flourished between China and Latin America.
Well, the Belt and Road, as everybody knows, is derived from the old Silk Road, which, happened well over a millennium ago. And the Silver Way, we call it, which is the trade routes across the Pacific, was really the successor to the Silk Road. When the Silk Road was closed down, the Portuguese and the Spanish looked for trade routes to Asia for the spices, and this was the one they found. But rather than going the Indian Ocean route, this one went through the Americas and across the Pacific to Manila, and from Manila they gathered together all of the goods to ship back to the Americas and then to Europe.
With travel very much at the forefront, this year's would-be travel writers flocked to seminars where they could hopefully blog or write their way to far-off lands. Sara Wheeler, a veteran travel writer who battled frostbite in Antarctica while researching one of her books, explained how such a genre can be both alluring and challenging.
The coldest I had was minus 115 with wind chill. It's a great challenge to do anything, and if you're living in a camp, there's a lot of things you have to do. You've got to keep the radio antenna up and things like that, and you can't really take your gloves off. I mean, you're wearing 3 pairs of gloves, and you couldn't really take them off for more than a few seconds, and that was very challenging, and that was frightening, because if you don't make your daily radio schedule to the nearest base, they send a search and rescue for you, and you really don't want that to happen, because that's other people risking their lives. So you really need to keep your radio working, and it is a challenge, wind, and nothing really works at those temperatures.
And attendees at this year's book fair no doubt wondered what's in store for the future of travel writing. Writers themselves say it's open for debate.
I think if you'd asked anyone that question for the past 150 years, you'd have gotten the same answer. That technology is terrible, and that kids today don't read, and people have forgotten grammar. And I'm sure I could give you that same answer. But somehow writing continues. People continue to write well. People continue to read good things. People still tend to get most of their information from the written word. So I don't think any of that's going to change.